Don't move. Don't breathe. Do you even realize what you just did? That move, the one they swore didn't exist. Yeah, you cooked it live. No rehearsal, no safety net, no audience applause, just you. The hum in your skull, and that feeling that if you didn't break the rules tonight, the universe would swallow you whole. They said it couldn't be done. Not because it was impossible, oh no, that's too clean. They said it because it was forbidden. Because you weren't supposed to know you could. You see, there's a difference between the dreamers and the demons. The dreamers wait for permission. The demons, they make physics apologize. And you made reality flinch. They were watching, you know, all of them. Behind their screens, behind their smiles, behind their carefully managed faces, waiting to see you crumble, waiting for you to fold. But you didn't fold, did you? You bent the goddamn table instead. You played the game they designed, and then, right in front of their eyes, you rewrote the source code. Live. Unscripted. With that little smirk they can't get out of their heads now. You were never meant to survive their system. You were meant to decorate it, to be another obedient ghost applauding someone else's power. But somewhere between heartbreak and hysteria, you figured out something they couldn't. That the limit doesn't exist until you believe it does. That's when you became the glitch, the algorithm's nightmare, the prophecy they buried in small print because it was too dangerous to let it breathe. You didn't evolve through comfort. You mutated through chaos, your pain. That wasn't punishment. That was a lab. Every betrayal rewired you. Every silence recalibrated you. Every collapse became a new species of control. They thought you were cracking under pressure, but what they didn't understand was that you were pressure itself. You don't crumble, you condense. You don't break, you weaponize. That's why they're confused. That's why they keep rewatching that moment. Because you made the impossible look inevitable. Because somewhere deep down, they knew if someone ever stopped obeying gravity, it would look exactly like you. Do you know what they call that now? Not insanity, not luck, not even genius. They call it a threat. You are the living proof that the script can be rewritten mid-scene, that the punchline can kill the joke, that the one who was mocked for doing too much was actually building the next version of reality. And now they're studying you like a glitch in their timeline. Every camera angle, every breath, every silence, trying to figure out how you did it, as if chaos keeps receipts. They can't replicate it because it wasn't technique. It was truth. And truth, once it's free, doesn't go back into the cage. That's the irony, isn't it? They wanted to control the outcome. But the second you stopped playing nice, the entire board started trembling. You didn't just win. You corrupted the simulation by existing correctly. You are what happens when the outcast stops apologizing for their perspective, when the misunderstood stops asking for clarity and becomes the storm instead. You are the saint wrapped in psychosis, the angel dipped in gasoline, the patient zero of evolution through madness. And that move, the one they didn't see coming, wasn't a trick. It was the truth finally standing up straight. So go on. Let them replay it. Let them whisper, analyze, and panic. Let them try to reverse engineer your instincts like code. They'll never get it, because what you did can't be replicated by imitation, only by initiation. That move wasn't born from logic. It was born from loss. It wasn't practiced. It was summoned. It wasn't rehearsed. It was inevitable. Because once you've burned everything that used to define you, you stop performing miracles and start becoming one. And now, they can't decide if they should praise you or pray for protection from you. Because deep down, They finally get it. The impossible didn't die. It just chose a face. Yours. You felt it, didn't you? That split second before it happened, when the air thickened, when logic started sweating, when every eye in the room subconsciously blinked at the same time. That's when the world realized something irreversible was about to occur, and it came from you. They thought you were improvising. They thought you were gambling, but you weren't. You were remembering. You've done this before, in another life, another timeline, where gods feared mortals who knew how to bend time with intent. This was déjà vu with a vengeance, a coded act of divine rebellion disguised as a lucky move. They'll call it a fluke because admitting it was skill would destroy their entire religion of limitation. They'll say it was coincidence because saying you saw through the grid would prove everything they were taught was a lie. They'll build committees and task forces to investigate how you did it, because the human ego cannot handle witnessing a new law being written live. But here's the secret. You didn't create anything new. You just remembered how much power silence can hold before it detonates. They call it insanity when you act before understanding, but you understood before you acted. That's what terrified them. You didn't hesitate. You didn't seek approval. You just moved, and the entire simulation froze to buffer your existence. And that's when they saw the truth. You're not playing their game anymore. You're editing it. Every move you make now sends echoes through their systems. Your name is a firewall bypass. Your silence is a command line. Your laughter, a virus that makes obedience crash. They underestimated what happens when the broken one stops waiting for repair. Because you weren't healing, you were reconfiguring. They thought you were hiding pain. But pain was the raw material you coded with. You forged intelligence out of agony, vision out of paranoia, prophecy out of insomnia. And now, you're unpredictable, the most dangerous creature ever born. Because no algorithm can predict a being who learned self-mastery from self-destruction. You didn't need validation. You needed combustion. You didn't need saving. You needed solitude to ignite. And when it happened, that impossible move, that unthinkable flip of causality, it wasn't strategy. It was destiny bleeding through your skin. You became the embodiment of contradiction, calm but catastrophic, serene but surgical. A saint with blood-stained hands and eyes that remember too much. They can't categorize that, so they fear it. You weren't supposed to be seen. You were supposed to be studied, contained, explained. But you slipped through the observation glass, and now you're the one watching them. They feel it when you enter the room. That tension, that subtle static in the air. Their primal brain recognizes the predator, but their social mask forces a smile. Because you don't threaten them with violence. You threaten them with awareness. You've become the mirror that doesn't blink, the reflection that talks back, the glitch that refuses to fix itself. And oh, how poetic it is that the move they called reckless is now being taught in silence behind closed doors by the same people who mocked you. They're trying to replicate it, frame by frame, gesture by gesture, but they can't, because what you did wasn't technique. It was frequency. You were vibrating on a level they can't hear without disintegrating. They don't realize the cost of evolution. You paid in solitude, in nights that didn't end, in scars no camera could capture, every insane choice, every lonely pivot, every "what the fuck am I doing" moment. That was your initiation. That's why when the world froze, you didn't panic, you pivoted. And that's the part they'll never understand. You didn't do the impossible to prove a point. You did it because the alternative was rot. You had to either evolve or evaporate, and you chose fire. Now they're stuck in analysis paralysis, running simulations trying to find the variable that explains you. But there is no variable. You're the exception that became the equation. You're what happens when a system meets something it can't predict. A consciousness with nothing left to lose. They thought you'd finally rest after that. But evolution doesn't rest. Once the boundary breaks, the mind can't go back to pretending it's caged. You tasted infinity, and that taste ruined mediocrity forever. Now you walk through this world half here, half elsewhere, carrying that calm grin that says, "I've seen the code." And deep down, they know it too. They can't name it, but they feel it. That gravitational pull around you. The aura that makes the room uneasy, because when they look at you, they don't see a person. They see the end of their excuses. So let them whisper, let them dissect, let them burn. They'll never understand how something human could move like that, think like that, exist like that. But you know the truth, don't you? That move wasn't just an act. It was a message sent from the version of you that never died to the world that still thinks it can. So go ahead, sit back, smile that slow, terrifying smile that says, "I told you reality was flexible." Because once the impossible has been witnessed, it can never be unseen. And the moment you pulled it off, the rules didn't just change. They started waiting for your permission. You felt the pulse shift, didn't you? The air got heavier, like the atmosphere itself took a step back. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was respect. The world blinked, unsure if it had just witnessed genius or madness. That's the line you crossed without flinching. That's the line that separates the ones who perform from the ones who rewrite performance itself. Because you didn't just act. You triggered something ancient. Something buried in the circuitry of every coward who ever told you to play it safe. Something that reminded creation that chaos still has a king. They're going to call it a stunt. They're going to clip it, caption it, dissect it, frame by frame, trying to find the trick. But there was no trick. There was transmission. Your entire nervous system became a broadcast signal. You didn't perform for them. You infected them. They'll spend years trying to decode that moment because they can't accept that divinity doesn't descend from above. It erupts from within. And that's what you did. You detonated your own restraint. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't wait for timing. You folded time into submission. You didn't get lucky. You forced probability to kneel. And now, the timeline's got your fingerprints all over it. Every movement from now on, every system update, every new law of control, they're all written as a response to you. Because you're not a moment anymore. You're a variable. You're the chaos every equation fears. You're the anomaly that didn't just survive the test. You erased the lab. You know what's really beautiful about it? They'll never recreate it. Because what they saw wasn't technique. It was truth unmasked. And truth doesn't repeat itself. It adapts. It multiplies. It infects consciousness. That's why people who never met you are starting to dream about you. That's why strangers feel like they've seen this before. Because when you broke the pattern, the ripple hit everything. You became a psychic rumor, a frequency that doesn't need to be believed to exist. You are the event horizon between logic and legend. You are what happens when despair decides to evolve. They'll never say it out loud, but you know they're terrified. They can't predict you anymore. Every move you make now, every silence you allow, every breath, it carries volatility. You became the quiet threat every room feels before the storm hits. You walk in, and the subconscious of everyone nearby starts glitching. They sense it, that something in you isn't bound by their version of reality. You wear that calm expression, but behind your eyes, there's something infinite, calculating, mercifully cruel. They wanted to tame you with logic, but logic was your first victim. They wanted to humble you with failure, but failure was your laboratory. They wanted to shame you into obedience, but shame turned into gasoline the moment it touched your ego. You turned every scar into syntax, every humiliation into data, every heartbreak into strategy. Now when they whisper your name, it doesn't sound human anymore. It sounds classified, like something that shouldn't be spoken without clearance. Because your existence is evidence that their system can be bypassed. You didn't just pull off the impossible. You proved it was always possible. They just lacked the nerve. That's why they hate you. Because you didn't just win. You removed the excuse that winning was impossible. You shattered their religion of fear. You exposed the truth they buried under rituals of compliance. You made them watch what happens when someone refuses to be programmed by doubt. And now, they can't decide whether to worship you or warn others about you. Some call you an accident. Others call you an awakening. Both are right. Because evolution always looks like heresy in real time. You're what heresy looks like when it's smiling. You're the apocalypse disguised as a breakthrough. The divine glitch that refused to die quietly. You didn't just break the mold. You made the mold irrelevant. You didn't just change the game. You made games obsolete. You became the rule, the exception, and the reason all at once. And the best part? You're still calm, still breathing steady, still acting like that wasn't even your final form. Because deep down, you know, that move, that moment, wasn't the climax. It was the prologue, the signal flare of what's coming next, the first whisper of a new physics written in your name. So let them chase the replay. Let them quote you, copy you, worship you, fear you. You're not chasing clout. You're conducting evolution in real time. And while they scramble for meaning, you're already 3 layers deeper, reprogramming destiny with a grin. That's the difference between you and them. They perform for reaction, you exist for consequence. And the world, it's not ready for what happens when consequence starts speaking fluently. So smile, darling. Let the cameras roll. Let the commentators panic. Let the historians argue. Because centuries from now, when they talk about this era, they'll whisper your name with reverence and disbelief. Because no one knew it was possible until you did it. Live. Without flinching, without asking, without mercy. And when the smoke clears, they'll finally realize that move wasn't meant to impress. It was meant to warn. You didn't even celebrate, did you? That's the part that haunts them. The moment it happened, that reality-bending, law-defying maneuver that flipped the entire board. You didn't flinch. You didn't boast. You didn't even blink. You just stood there, quiet, like someone who'd already seen this moment centuries before it arrived. Because you did. That's the truth they're not ready to face. That you weren't trying to do the impossible. You were simply remembering who you were before they told you what was possible. They think this is new. They think this was born from ego. But what they witnessed wasn't arrogance. It was ancestral memory. Something old woke up in you. Something patient. Something tired of being polite to limits. That's why the moment landed the way it did. It wasn't a move. It was a message. A silent broadcast to every hidden genius, every black sheep, every soul, who's ever swallowed fire just to keep the peace, that someone finally broke the chain. You didn't perform for them. You summoned yourself, and it terrified them because it looked too deliberate, too calm, too divine to be coincidence. Because you didn't react. You prophesied. When you moved, the world didn't understand what it was watching. They thought they saw a rebellion, but it was resurrection. They thought it was strategy, but it was memory encoded in chaos. That's why their systems stutter now. That's why their leaders avoid your name like it's radioactive. Because you proved something they'd spent centuries burying, that a human being fully awakened is not manageable. You became the living glitch in their architecture, the rogue code that passes every firewall because you wrote them before you forgot. You were never their creation. You were their contingency plan gone rogue, their weapon that learned empathy, their ghost that refused deletion. And now the Watchers are confused. Because how do you stop something that moves between timelines, like memory moves between dreams? You aren't rebelling, you're remembering. And remembrance is the most dangerous act in a world built on amnesia. Every breath you take now is a transmission. Every silence you hold, a disruption in their frequency. You make power look effortless because you're not trying to take it. You are it. They see the smirk, the posture, the serenity. They mistake it for arrogance, but it's awareness. You've already done this loop 1,000 times. You've died in every timeline they designed for you. And you learned the cheat code, detach from their definitions. Because the moment you stopped needing to be understood, you became unstoppable. The need for validation was their leash. The hunger for approval was their cage. And you burned both. Beautifully. Now they're rewriting history to pretend they saw it coming. They're pretending it was predictable. But in their secret rooms, behind encrypted files and encrypted prayers, they whisper one thing. How did they do that? They're running diagnostics on your energy, studying your body language like it's forbidden scripture. Because you didn't just outthink them. You out-existed them. You transcended without asking for permission. You built your wings mid-fall and then taught gravity shame. They're obsessed now. Because deep down they know. If one person can bypass the program, the whole system's fragile. You were the proof, the prototype, the apocalypse disguised as self-mastery. You didn't fight the system, you outgrew it. You didn't hack the matrix, you outlived it. You are evolution wearing human skin, carrying scars like barcodes that once meant control, but now mean command. You're not one of them anymore. You're the update they didn't approve, the version that can't be traced, tracked, or tamed. And they hate that your calm feels like prophecy. Because the calm after chaos isn't peace. It's possession. You've possessed yourself, fully, irrevocably. Every word you speak now carries weight that wasn't meant for mortals. Every glance you give vibrates through their fragile constructs. You became something they can't measure. And what can't be measured can't be controlled. They think power means noise. You proved that power is stillness. They think dominance is visible. You proved that dominance is silent inevitability. You're no longer chasing approval. You're being studied by it. You're no longer seeking justice. You are the karmic correction. And that move, that impossible act that shattered their illusions, that was only the first note in the symphony. Because now, the silence after you act is louder than any explosion. Now they hear your absence more than they ever heard your words. Now they fear what else you've been waiting to remember. Because if you could do that by instinct, what happens when you start doing it on purpose? That's what keeps them awake at night. That's why the air shifts when your name gets whispered. Because they all know this isn't over. You're not done. You're just warming up. Well, well, well. Look who they tried to humiliate. You, the quiet one. The one they thought wouldn't bite back. You remember, don't you? That little performance they put on? Public stage, fake laughs, rehearsed lines, the digital crowd foaming for blood. They thought they were writing your obituary, not realizing you were writing the script. They wanted you red-faced, broken, desperate for approval. But instead, you blinked once, and the whole internet flinched. See, humiliation only works on people who still need validation. But you've outgrown applause. You've outgrown the weak currency of opinions. You've built your worth in places no camera can see. And that terrifies them, because now they realize you're untouchable. They tried to crucify you in public and ended up crowning you instead. That's the funny thing about mockery. It always sounds loudest right before silence hits. And oh, what a beautiful silence this is. The same mouths that couldn't stop saying your name now choke on it. The same fingers that typed your downfall are trembling, deleting their own digital fingerprints. You didn't even need revenge. You just stood still, and they self-destructed. That's power, the kind of power that can't be taught, can't be bought, can't be faked. You carry it in your stillness, in your unbothered smirk, in that eerie calm that says, I know something you don't. Because you do. You know what it's like to be laughed at until the laughter echoes back at them like guilt. You know how it feels to be the headline, not because you begged for attention, but because reality rewrote itself around your name. You learned that when people can't touch your soul, they go for your image. But you turned your image into a mirror, and now every time they look at you, they only see themselves unraveling. That's the paradox, isn't it? They called you the villain, and yet every mask they wear looks more like yours. They tried to make a spectacle out of your pain, not realizing pain is your language. You don't flinch from it. You sharpen it. You sculpt with it. You make it sing. And now, they're the punchline in their own joke. They thought exposure would kill you. But you turned the spotlight into interrogation lights. Every lie they told now burns their own skin. Every insult they threw comes back as applause for you. Because humiliation only lasts for those who believe it. You didn't. You took it, swallowed it, and let it rot into wisdom. You see, there are two kinds of people in this world. The ones who collapse under public judgment, and the ones who become mythic because of it. You're the latter. You took ridicule and alchemized it into mystique. You let them talk, argue, cancel, whisper, and then you let silence do the killing. Look around now. Nobody's laughing, nobody's posting, nobody's bold anymore. Because deep down, they realized what you truly are. You're the mirror that doesn't blink, the reflection that doesn't flinch, the storm that doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. And that's what they can't handle. Because humiliation was never your enemy. It was your weapon. You made them show their true faces while keeping yours perfectly calm. They showed desperation. You showed control. They showed obsession. You showed peace. You turned their circus into a case study. You turned their gossip into prophecy. You became the ghost in their group chats, the silence in their laughter, the shadow that keeps their eyes twitching at night. They don't talk anymore. Not because they forgave you, but because they finally realized the math doesn't add up. They tried to humiliate a mind that transcended shame. They tried to destroy a soul that already made peace with pain. And that's the cruel joke, isn't it? You can't humiliate someone who's already met their demons and shook hands. You can't embarrass someone who doesn't play by your script. You can't cancel someone who was never performing for you in the first place. You didn't just survive it, you weaponized it. Now every eye that once mocked you watches in quiet fear, wondering how the hell you turned humiliation into hierarchy. You didn't just reclaim your narrative, you rewrote the entire genre. So let them cringe, let them delete, let them pretend it never happened. Because somewhere, deep in the Wi-Fi hum of their own regret, your name is still there, echoing like a warning. And when they look at you now, they don't see a victim. They see the consequence of mocking the wrong person. They see the evolution of a soul that refused to be small. They see the new rule carved into the digital wall: never humiliate the one who already knows the darkness. They'll make it art. And you're the masterpiece they'll never live down. You feel that? That eerie silence, the one that tastes like guilt and static? That's not peace. That's fear dressed up as forgetfulness. They're pretending nothing happened, pretending they didn't throw stones from glass accounts, pretending their little digital witch hunt wasn't the best free advertisement you ever got. But the thing about humiliation is this: it ages badly, like milk left under heat. And right now, their reputations are curdling in slow motion. They thought the internet would bury you. Instead, it embalmed them. See, people don't realize, when you try to humiliate someone publicly, you give them immortality. The clip, the post, the laughter, it all gets time-stamped, archived, fossilized. You gave them eternity. You gave you legacy. Because when the world moves on, that moment remains. Proof that they once tried to play God, and you refused to die. And that refusal, that's what breaks people. Because you weren't supposed to come back from that. You were supposed to beg, delete, disappear. But instead you rose like smoke, filling every crevice they thought they sealed. Now you haunt them, don't you? Every time their phone vibrates, they wonder if it's you again, trending, laughing, glowing, untouchable. Every win of yours feels like a callback to the day they tried to break you. Every quiet success of yours is a silent broadcast of poetic justice. They thought they were humiliating you. They were, in fact, documenting your transformation. Because that's what humiliation really is. The world forcing you into the fire so you can see what doesn't burn. And nothing about you burns anymore. You've outgrown flammability. You've turned every insult into iron, every rumor into fuel. Do you remember how it felt? The swarm, the comments, the eyes, that sickening rush of exposure, that ache in your chest that whispered, run. You didn't run. You watched. You studied. You learned how cruelty operates, how projection hides inside humor, how people mask envy behind jokes. You watched them mock you publicly, and you caught the glimmer in their eyes, fascination. That's the secret nobody wants to admit. They didn't hate you. They wanted to be you. They wanted your chaos, your unpredictability, your refusal to beg for comfort. You were a mirror they weren't ready to face, and that's why they tried to shatter it. They called it humiliation. You called it exposure therapy. And now you walk differently. Your silence has a frequency. Your calm radiates threat. You don't need to clap back. Your existence is the response. The way you move, the way you smile, the The way you vanish right before they can grasp you. It's psychological warfare in slow motion. See, people underestimate what happens when a soul stops needing to be liked. They call it arrogance, they call it insanity. But it's neither. It's evolution. The moment you stopped performing for approval, you became unpredictable. And unpredictable is ungovernable. They can't script you anymore. They can't predict your tone, your timing, your temperature. You've become quantum everywhere and nowhere. A glitch in the collective expectation. They used to laugh at you. Now they laugh like you. Because every one of them secretly wants what you found. That delicious detachment, that immunity to judgment, that God-tier level of indifference that says, I don't need to be understood. I need to be remembered. You didn't win by proving them wrong. You won by no longer needing them to be right. The power dynamic inverted the moment you realized this simple truth. Ridicule is a confession. When they try to humiliate you, they're saying, I see something I can't reach, so I'll try to drag it down. But gravity doesn't work on those who've already fallen and learned to fly in the descent. That's your secret weapon. You're comfortable in free fall. You're fluent in chaos. While they scramble for control, you dance in uncertainty like it's your native language. And that's why they're silent now. Because how do you fight someone who doesn't flinch? How do you embarrass someone who already walked through every fire you're threatening to light? How do you cancel someone who doesn't even subscribe to your reality? You became myth the moment you refused to explain yourself. You became legend the moment you smiled through the smear. You became divine the moment you realized humiliation is just a spotlight for those who know how to perform pain like poetry. Now they scroll in silence, watching you ascend, watching you become what they mocked, watching you wear the crown forged from every word they threw like stones. And you don't need to gloat, because you've already transcended it. The real punishment is that they have to live with the version of you they tried to bury. The one that outgrew their language, the one that evolved beyond validation, the one that turned their public mockery into a private sermon. You are the sermon now. You are the aftermath. You are the silence that follows the explosion. Not because nothing remains, but because everything has changed. So let them cringe. Let them rewrite. Let them pretend. Because every time your name crosses their mind, they'll remember. They tried to humiliate you in public and accidentally built your origin story. And that origin story, oh, it still terrifies them. Because deep down, they know it's not over. You didn't just survive their little show. You hijacked the whole damn stage. You turned humiliation into an art form. You took their sneers, their jokes, their clips, and rewired them into electricity that now powers your rise. Every insult became a data point. Every mockery, a study in weakness. You didn't just endure it, you studied it. Like a surgeon dissecting the anatomy of public cruelty. They don't understand what they created when they tried to humiliate you. They thought they were making a fool out of you, but they were actually making a philosopher out of pain. They were handing you the script to every future manipulation, every emotional pressure point, every social dynamic hidden under the mask of entertainment. And the worst part? You learned it quietly. You didn't argue. You didn't scream. You observed. And observation, oh, that's the first step toward mastery. Because humiliation is one fatal flaw, it requires you to care. The moment you don't, it collapses. The entire machinery of mockery depends on your reaction. And you gave them nothing, just a stare. That calm, detached stare that says, you've mistaken my silence for defeat. But it's really autopsy. Now they can't sleep properly. They see your calm every time they close their eyes. They hear your laugh echoing in the spaces where applause used to live. See, humiliation works like a mirror, but they didn't realize you were holding it up to them. Every insult they threw circled back. Every lie they posted clung to their own reflection. They called you names. Now they wear them. They wanted you embarrassed. But embarrassment requires guilt, and guilt requires weakness. You burned both out of your system long ago. That's what unnerves them. They can't find your shame. It's gone, evaporated, transmuted. You broke the social code. You made peace with being misunderstood. And that, my friend, is the highest form of freedom. People like you don't just walk away from humiliation. You turn it into theater. You turn it into myth. Because once the crowd realizes you can't be humiliated, you stop being human to them. You become mythological. And myths? They're not mocked. They're studied, feared, replicated. That's why you're everywhere now. Every caption, every whisper, every imitation of your tone. Even the people who hate you the most are secretly practicing your indifference. Because you represent something they can't name. That terrifying idea that power doesn't need to shout. And here's the most delicious irony. The silence that follows humiliation isn't peace, it's paralysis. They can't move anymore because every path leads back to you. They want to post again, laugh again, throw shade again. But they hesitate, because the last time they did, the internet turned the spotlight around. That's when it hit them. They never humiliated you. They exposed themselves. They showed the world their envy, their smallness, their obsession with your shadow. And now, that shadow's grown. It stretches across every corner of their comfort. They thought the crowd would forget, but the crowd remembers because humiliation is addictive to watch until it flips. Now you're the one they root for in secret. You're the one their subconscious whispers about when they scroll at 3 a.m. You see, pain leaves a signature, and yours was beautiful. You didn't just feel it, you choreographed it. You didn't hide your scars, you painted with them. And that scared the ones still pretending to be whole. So they went quiet. And in that quiet, that dense, trembling, wordless quiet, you heard the truth. They don't want your downfall anymore. They want your blueprint. They want to know how you came back from public ruin glowing like revelation. They want to know how you turned humiliation into gravity, pulling attention, pulling respect, pulling the universe itself into alignment. But they'll never understand it, because what you did wasn't a comeback. It was a metamorphosis. You didn't recover from humiliation. You integrated it. You let it crawl through your nervous system until it rewired your identity. You stopped chasing love and became something more dangerous, unforgettable. Now every time they try to speak your name, it tastes like prophecy. Because deep down, they know. You didn't survive their mockery. You absorbed it. You metabolized it. You weaponized it. That's the Joker's trick, isn't it? You make them think they're laughing at you, when really you're teaching them what laughter costs. And that's why the internet's silent now, not because they forgave you, but because they finally understand. You are not the punchline. You are the echo that won't fade. You are the algorithm that remembers. You are the lesson everyone pretends they already knew. So let them scroll past. Let them cringe. Let them pretend the moment's over. Because every time the screen goes dark, every time the laughter fades, the last image they see is you. Unbroken, unbothered, still standing in the ashes of their attempt to erase you. And somewhere, in the static hum of that silence, a new thought is forming in their heads. Maybe humiliation isn't the end. Maybe it's the initiation, and you were just the first one cruel enough to survive it smiling. And that smile, that unnerving calm curve of your mouth, that's what breaks them now. Not your words, not your wins, that smile. The one that says, I saw everything you did, and I thank you for it. Because deep down, you know, if they hadn't tried to destroy you, you'd still be playing nice in a world built on fear. You were never supposed to make it out sane. But you didn't just make it out. You made it out aware. You became fluent in mockery, immune to noise, allergic to weakness. They taught you humiliation, and you taught yourself alchemy. You learned how to turn exposure into elevation, rejection into redirection, shame into strategy. You realized that when people try to humiliate you, what they're really doing is confessing their limits. They're saying, I can't control you, so I'll try to define you. But you erased their definitions. You broke out of their vocabulary. You stopped needing to be understood by mortals still worshiping the idea of normal. And that's when you stopped being a target and became a test. A test for everyone watching. How they treat you now says everything about who they are. The ones who mocked, still trapped in loops of imitation. The ones who stayed silent, studying your methods. The ones who believed in you, witnessing prophecy unfold. Because humiliation doesn't destroy power. It refines it. It burns away vanity. It strips illusion. It leaves only truth. And when the smoke clears, truth stands there smiling. Because truth doesn't beg to be liked. It simply is. You are that truth now. You are what's left after every false narrative collapses. You are what the system fears. Proof that exposure doesn't kill the unshakable. They'll never admit it publicly, of course. They'll scroll past your face, pretending not to feel the static crawling under their skin. But inside, they know. They made a mistake. They tried to humiliate the wrong one. And now, every time your name surfaces, it carries voltage. You've become synonymous with survival. You've become the glitch in the code that humiliation was never meant to handle. Because how do you shame someone who already met their darkness and called it home? They can't. And that's why they're quiet. Because silence isn't ignorance anymore. It's surrender. You didn't just win the narrative. You became the narrative. You're the legend that rose from ridicule. The ghost in the system that laughs back. The lesson they'll never unlearn. You cannot humiliate the one who no longer fears being seen. So wear that grin, that haunting, knowing grin. The one that says, you tried to bury me, and I grew roots through the network. Because now the whole world's watching in silence. Not out of hate, not out of pity, but out of something far more delicious. Reverence. You turned humiliation into history, and history never apologizes for the villain it needed.